Holy crap, the latest episode of Severance has just dropped and it is a crazy one. There's a lot to unpack, but spoilers ahead. Pretty famously, Severance has never done flashbacks before. Sure, technically, maybe we got a quick flash out of context here or there, but that's about it. However, this episode is probably about 50% flashback and 50% present and focused entirely on Gemma and Mark. And if that wasn't exciting enough, we finally get to see the testing floor. This is, of course, something that's been teased somewhat in season 1, but a lot this season, and I love how we are finally getting some answers. This episode masterfully sways from past and present, and I'm going to talk about this more later, but I just love how there's scenes with Gemma and Mark that are just bathed in this amazing sunlight, surrounded by nature, juxtaposed to the present day where Gemma is in this cold, sunless basement. It's just equal parts horrific and heartbreaking, which I think kind of sums up this episode really well. We also see that Mark in present day is still in a coma-like state, but he will ultimately be fine. Severance has always been, at its core, a sci-fi show, yet in previous episodes, including the first season, the creators do a solid job of grounding it just enough to make it feel less sci-fi and more like a thriller drama with some horror undertones. But oh boy, this might be the most pulpy sci-fi episode thus far, but I'm curious if this is going to throw a lot of fans or not. I know I was a little bit thrown my first watch, but on my second viewing, I really liked it. It's a lot of information to take in, but it does answer a lot of questions. And this is what I love about Severance versus From. In From, we get slivers of answers, but those answers usually raise more questions. Severance, on the other hand, has its share of mysteries, sure, yet the writers know when to answer questions while still maintaining some bigger mysteries to keep you engaged. For example, in this episode, we learn the following. Gemma is definitely confirmed to be on the testing floor. That's not a huge revelation, but it's confirmed. When Mark asks if Gemma is being hurt down there, sadly, the answer to that is yes. It's probably safe to say that the stuff that O&D is making are for these rooms that Gemma visits. One of the big questions is, was Mark somehow involved in the car crash? Thankfully, no. Those are the big ones, but it also fills in little gaps like how Mark and Gemma met, their little cute quirks. We learn the heartbreaking truth about Gemma and Mark having conception issues and Gemma miscarrying. This makes us set up that Helena Egan might be pregnant with Mark's baby, all the more poignant and tragic. So visually, this episode is amazing and it really mixes things up. While the color palette remains largely the same for Lumen, we get warmer colors introduced to highlight the natural world, specifically when we see Gemma, who loves plants being living things and very natural versus Lumen, which is very unnatural and man-made. We get some scenes that are very dizzying and very kind of crazy editing, which we really haven't seen in this series so far. And some of the flashbacks look like faded 16mm home movies, which I really liked. The series has always been amazing with how it uses lighting, and I have to say it's really incredible here. While this episode mainly focuses on Mark and Gemma, I'm really happy that Devin got some time to shine here. The writers could have easily sidelined her, but I love how she keeps getting more to do, and outside of the core characters, she's one of my favorites, so I was happy about that. This episode is a damn roller coaster of emotions. It's the perfect balance of filling in a lot of gaps, which is wholly satisfying, yet leaves enough unanswered questions to keep me engaged. The story of Mark and Gemma is just, I know I keep using the word tragic, but I don't know how else to describe it, y'all. It is just heartbreaking. And I did come away from this episode a little bit depressed, frankly. Probably the most disturbing scene outside of the miscarriage is Gemma knocking out her captor and escaping, only to have her innie activated into Miss Casey. And we see Seth out of breath because he probably ran here to get her. And Seth just turns her away, and Miss Casey pretty much willingly goes back. I know that they're trying to make Seth a more grounded and complicated villain, but damn, this is cold because he's got to know what exactly they're doing to her. And maybe he doesn't know the specifics, but he's got to have an inkling that it's really bad. So I hope you all enjoyed that video. I want to make it some other videos breaking down some of the other aspects in this episode. So please subscribe so you don't miss that. And hey, while you're here in the severed floor with me, check out some of these other videos, and I will see y'all in the next one.